Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm so excited to be here today. This is a long time coming conversation, and this is a health and wellness trailblazer. So we're going to dig into something you probably have not heard about yet. So stay tuned and listen to the end because we're going to have a special discount code and giveaway for our listeners. But before we jump in, let's give a little love to our sponsors, Colorado Clownfish Swim School. They are all about swim lessons and water safety training for all ages. They believe in life skills through sports. So go waterproof your family today. You can check them out at coloradoclownfish.com. And our very own Declan James watches. They are local and veteran owned, and 10% of all their proceeds go back to the Navy SEAL Foundation. So go see what they have going on, particularly around this holiday season. Without further ado, I want to welcome Jordan Dozzi-Perry to the TNT mic. Did I get it?
Yes, you did.
Let's go. So Jordan and I met at Newtopia Now almost over a year ago, and we just started to talking. Honestly, his booth stood out because it was so clean and put together, and it wasn't like bright colors and all in your face. And I was like, what is going on here? And we started talking, and he told me about what he does. And I'm like, okay, we got to get you on the podcast and talk about it. So I'm going to read his bio, and then we're going to let Jordan run with the mic because he's got some incredible, not only what he's doing, but why. So his background: Jordan is the founder of Repose Health, a novel integrative digestive health therapy born of his own personal health journey. His self-directed research revealed to him how the gut microbiome and one's inflammation status both play critical roles in immune health and general resilience, inspiring his innovative therapeutic program that addresses root cause. With training in both science and fine art, he blends academic rigor with storytelling from his work in documentary film. When he's not building gut health solutions or making inspiring media, you'll find him gardening, surfing, or exploring mountains by foot or split board. Jordan, welcome to TNT.
Happy to be here, Kristen. Thanks.
Yes, it's so awesome. So before we get to the mission, I always like to ask all of our guests, tell us about young Jordan. Like, how were you as a kid? I think how we are is written in the stars very, very early.
That's a great question. How I was as a kid. I think I was pretty hyperactive. I definitely I played all the sports. Thankfully my parents were like, try everything. I also had a pretty unique upbringing in that I grew up around my mom's side of the family and an Italian restaurant, and it was just this hub of community. And I was fortunate enough to know my great grandparents, and they were my babysitters, and they also founded the restaurant. And so there was this amazing sort of generational awareness, and seeing what they did with their lives. Working the garden, eating from the garden, having just big community and meals and that hospitality it really had a huge impact on me. Spending a lot of time out in nature. I grew up in a small town in northern Ontario in Canada. And so food and connection with the land really, I think, shaped my upbringing. And having this sort of like big community to be a part of, it really nurtured me into sort of having this conception of, we're only, upheld by these sort of beautiful things that come from the land and come from people, and it definitely shaped the way that I tell story and design therapy. So
I love that. I love that the creativity shows up on all angles of your life. I think, all of us creatives, it doesn't ever not show up in any capacity. So it's kind of a beautiful through line in all the things that we do. But tell us how you got, where Repose Health started, like your own personal journey, and then why you wanted to make it your company and your mission.
Yeah. So initially, I studied biological sciences, again, sort of with this connection to nature, ecology, biology, physics, whatnot. Really loved science. And then and then pivoted, took a year off, went to art school, was in the pre-med track. So after 4 years of science, I went into art mode. And after graduating from my art degree, I ended up having, which is, unfortunate, but in a way it was this blessing, which is now bringing to bear Repose Health. I had this traumatic, sort of toxic incident, that unlike many people that end up in sort of chronic disease states, it was this clear before and after for me. And after that point, right after graduating, I ended up with, brain fog, being on an energy roller coaster, eventually having to sort of decide that, I can't eat gluten. Other foods would make me break out in some hives, or definitely have digestive issues. And so that continued for 7 years. And in that time, I was basically in a symptoms management framework, really trying to treat the manifestations of what was going on in my body. And then in 2018, I learned about the microbiome and got on a very early sort of 23andMe type test that was this window into the genetic world of microbes and the language of microbes, and that kind of permitted me to go in from a scientific perspective into starting to uncover some of the language that these microbes have with our bodies, right? And our microbiome is very much us, but it really does play the keys to the immune system. And so by the end of that year, I made the first version of what now is sort of the landmark therapy, the kit, by Repose Health. But it didn't have a name, and and it took this sort of systems approach of, I need to deal with my nervous system, I need to deal with my inflammation status, I need to deal with my microbiome, and how do I access all of these things to overcome my sort of unique set of issues that unfortunately all too many people have today. What eventuated after that was me actually getting amazing results in the span of like weeks to months, being able to eat normally, live normally, feel like I was back in the world, back in connection with community, because when people are chronically inflamed or have one or more chronic diseases, it really can silo you off from being out in the world and being social. I wasn't consuming any alcohol, lots of things. I was on a very straight and narrow path, and and I'd done until that point everything short of being on an immunomodulatory drug. So all the supplements, tons of alternative therapies, and then landed on this, which I feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants in a way, and I wouldn't have gotten here without all of this sort of understanding that not only comes from science, but different sort of integrative, non-allopathic medicine, such as traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda. Like all these different worlds came together for me to make this. And this is not to say that I don't have amazing reverence and appreciation for Western medicine. I think it does incredible things. But this integrative mindset really let me put this together, and really with the concept that if you give nature, even within your body, all of the right sort of preconditions, it finds a way to thrive. And then I'd never thought about making it into a business until the pandemic happened, and I had friends and other community members, friends of friends, approach me, and they basically they heard about what I had done, and they were like, "Can we try your thing? Can we try your therapy, yet unnamed?" And I obliged, especially in the context of, a lot of people tuning into digestive health and its connection with the immune system, and them just wanting to be, strong in the face of this, unknown, right, during the pandemic. And so that's when I saw it start to work with people with a range of different conditions. And that was sort of working in a multitude of ways. These conditions were, not like my own. Some people with chronic eczema, chronic constipation, other food sensitivities apart from gluten, like dairy and legumes and whatnot, and then some people with diagnosed diseases, and seeing their symptoms resolve again after trying everything and then landing on or finding Repose, and so that was really the impetus. I was like, oh, I have this thing, and it really needs to sort of become an official sort of a landing site, or like an actual product, to have people find it, and that's really what led to the creation of Repose, was really other people and heeding that call.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think when you're on, when you're in alignment and you're showing up and you're serving your purpose, even if you're not fully clear in the time what it is, like those kinds of things are the affirmation that help guide the path in the forest. And thankfully, because of COVID, I think the conversation between the gut brain connect, microbiome, what we're eating, healing, and like just asking larger questions instead of just putting a band-aid on things, or, going gluten-free or just not eating something, we start to really ask like, what is the cause and effect? And how it's beyond just like eating, losing weight, energy. It can be impact your brain, your energy, like so many things. Tell us a little bit about what this product specifically is and why you're different from, just the average, probiotic, or, one of these basic solutions to, chronic disease or chronic illness.
Right. So, by design, I tried to assemble the sort of the bulk of what I knew, and thankfully I had the support and feedback of people in my community of doctors and scientists as well, to bounce research and get to this point. And what makes Repose different is that there are a lot of different mechanisms at play, and there are different modes of application as well. So yes, you are doing capsules that are supplement based. You're doing a pro and prebiotic blends. One blend is symbiotics and biotics, so more bacteria based. The other is spore based, so it's engaging from a microbiome perspective. And then you're also getting a treatment that tends to the lining of the digestive system. So the epithelial lining is basically only one cell thick, and that starts at your mouth and ends at your rectum. And so those cells are powerhouses that are doing so much work constantly, and they are really the boundary layer that can be the difference between healthy optimal functioning, or allowing things like bacterial endotoxins, and other things that we are sort of inhaling and ingesting from our environment into our bloodstream and interacting with our immune system. And so at the systems level, I was like, okay, well, everybody has their own unique microbiomes, right? It's as unique as one's fingerprint. But how do we engage with that gut lining from a biotics perspective? How do we feed your innate microbiome? How do we bring in support through biotics, through probiotics, and then what are the metabolites that are favorable in the digestive system down at the very end, in the large intestine, which is kind of the ground zero. That's where the bulk of your immune cells are parked. Over 80% of your immune cells at any given time are just on the other side of the wall of your colon, right? So how do we get that signaling right through anti-inflammatories that soothe the gut lining, building blocks of the gut lining, antioxidants, and feeding the good gut microbes that create these metabolites that are the fuel to the gut lining that tamp down inflammation. The other big thing is that you're doing capsules orally, and you're also doing a suppository. And for me, that was sort of the light bulb moment of how do we access this environment that for some people, they need that sort of level of interventionary care, right? Because you can take probiotics and you can feel a bit better, which I did, but I knew that I wasn't over the hump. I didn't eliminate my food sensitivities. I was still having skin reactions, and my digestion was not quite right. My stools were all over the map. So it is this combined approach of capsules orally, and then this very easy to prepare at home, or clinically administered suppository. It's liquid, so it actually hydrates and it gets to where it needs to go, not only through it being liquid, but also through self-massage, which is actually massively helpful from a somatic standpoint and a mechanical standpoint. You actually, with the massage, are getting the suppository distributed throughout the colon, and you're also hydrating the area. People are chronically dehydrated, so that hydration helps basically get things moving. You absorb much of your water through your colon as well, so it's working kind of synergistically there. And then to top all of it off, there's very simple breath work that is getting you into your parasympathetic nervous system state. A very short amount right as you or right before and after you administer the suppository portion. It's basically just box breathing, but that's a very well documented and powerful modality. And so it is this combination of approaches. So there's all sorts of things happening, and that's sort of what got me over the hump, and what has actually worked for some people that have been at the end of the road treatment wise.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And the thing is, I've been in health and wellness, I mean, lifelong athlete, but for probably, oh gosh, I don't know, at least 20 years. And this is something I had not heard of. You've heard of like enemas and coffee and like those kinds of things, but nothing in suppositories in some capacity, but it's not super popular. And before we got on the mic, you did touch that it is more popular in other countries and internationally, where suppository health in general, or like that modality of it being administered that way, isn't as popular, I want to say, in America. So when we were talking, I was like, God, this is really forward thinking, because a lot of people can't absorb or digest or hold down certain things if you're that allergic, or if you have chronic illness and there's no solution. And when you have like the flu, it's awful. But when you have something like that with your gut chronically, it's really a miserable situation. So any kind of creative solution, I'm like, God, this is so forward thinking of just totally switching up the game. Who is this ideally for? Like, who are most of the people, or what kind of clients or participants or patients that see the best results from Repose, the Repose kit?
Right. Well, I would say it casts a wide net. I've seen remarkable sort of results from people that are in pretty severe states. I can't, as it is right now, at least, I can't profess to be a cure, right? I can't say that it treats X, Y, or Z disease. But what I can say is that people that have had diagnosed digestive issues, IBS, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, I've seen some really remarkable results there. Everything from resolving, gas, bloating, pain, to getting people back their ability to just like eat normal foods. Like there was one woman that she was only eating cooked vegetables and rice and some meat, and that was her diet. She couldn't have any raw fruits or vegetables, and it was able to get her to eat, cucumbers and mangoes, and just to be able to be out in the world for her was after this 6-week therapy, which I didn't actually explain that it was a 6-week therapy, and I'm happy to explain why it is that too, and that you do it every other day, not every day, which kind of alleviates the I guess the workload, even though the therapy really only takes 10 minutes to apply. Other people that have had really amazing results. I had someone who had really debilitating UTIs. She had basically a year's worth of sort of cascade of different antibiotics for a chronic infection, and then that ended up resulting in digestive issues, food sensitivities, and then these UTIs that would leave her bedridden because of the pain. And the doctors just said, okay, well, we can give you more antibiotics every time this flares up. And Repose completely resolved the UTIs. Other sort of less severe states, it's helped people with eczema, with chronic constipation, food sensitivities, chronic fatigue. And really it's so interesting because I feel like there's so many things connected to our gut, and everything from our, our mood to our energy to, again, all these expressions of disease. And yeah, I've seen it do lots there. And there's this frontier that I'm still kind of figuring out, in the sense that we'll see how effective it is for different people's conditions as we go. But it's been really remarkable to get people digesting better. I mean, the thing that across the board that everybody reports is more energy, more mental clarity, and better digestion, less bloating. So I mean, who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
And yeah, and like I said, I'm excited to see where it goes, and just how much it can affect change in all sorts of health issues, or with all sorts of different health issues.
Absolutely. And the other part that's not even, we haven't covered, is that when you physically feel terrible, it affects your mental health. So I love that you put in the breathing, and the you touch on like somatic healing and some of these other modalities, like you're blending, Eastern, Western, and like Medicaid, like it's a blend of things. Where did like the breathing and the extra side of the administering the medicine, we'll say, come through? Like, how did you put that together?
So really, I tapped into breath work originally because of a friend. She got me into yoga many years ago, and I just, it just was intuitive, after
Yeah.
that, of, oh, I can use my breath, this really amazing modality it doesn't cost anything, to affect my stress level and my energy and my ability to sleep well. And it's just so powerful. And there's so many different ways of doing breath work. And this one in particular, the box breathing, is great because it gets you out of that chronic stress state of fight or flight, the sympathetic state, and into the parasympathetic state. And when that happens, your blood literally goes, from your extremities in that fight or flight mode back into your vital organs. And that's where we need our blood to go when we are in that rest and digest state. So it is this sort of, you're priming your body to make the most out of all the different modalities that you just ingested.
Mhm.
So that's that's, I think, really a key part of it. And it's super simple. And what I love about it is that I'm also just tuning people into breath work, just by hinting this, and just by saying, oh, and you can use this outside of the therapy, just to make the most of life, and to get through some hard times, and to regulate.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And I think this can be a major indicator too, if, because the gut brain connect and your hormones, for women in perimenopause or menopause, sometimes it's actually not those things, and it could be your gut health. So there's larger conversation of checking into something like this, because what your symptoms are presenting might be diagnosed, or you might go down a rabbit hole where it's not even that at all. And again, that can also impact your mental health. So I always feel like the gut is usually a good spot to start if you can't figure out really what's going on. Would you agree with that?
absolutely. And another interesting thing too, I think, is that when you start having digestive issues, and they become sort of notable, and they start to affect your day-to-day life, you're actually, I don't mean to scare people, but like you're progressed quite a ways, in terms of like your body saying, hey, there's something wrong here. Because as a society, we don't even really, if everything's working, we're not even really paying attention to that part of our body. Our culture, at least in sort of the West, we don't know how to even touch our bellies, right? And so just that act of self-massage that is present in, other cultures, that, such as Ayurveda, such as, the sort of the subcontinent of Asia, uh, they have tapped into it, and they do understand that critical part of the body. So just having that, again, that one's hands, or a clinician's hands, on the gut is so therapeutic, and it connects you instantly to, oh, this is a part of me, right? And it's interestingly driving the ship a lot more than we really like to admit at times, right? Is that I often like to think of the gut actually as people call it the second brain. I like to think of it as the first brain. And I
Yeah.
say that because if we think about things in terms of how we've come to be as humans, we have, we've been these omnivorous individuals who have constantly inoculated this part of our body with, plant and animal foods. We would be chewing on this grass, that bark, that plant, whatever for centuries, for millennia, and inoculating it with the microbes that were on, the unique signature of microbes that are on all these foods, right? And so we've created this incredible metabolic engine that has the same amount of neurons as a small child or a puppy, and without that community, we wouldn't have grown the brains that we have, right? And so it it was really essential to then create human cognition, and that's why I call it the first brain.
Let's go. And it's so great that this conversation, maybe not that in depth, and I know you could go like a mile deeper, is coming more mainstream, and people are actually starting to care about what they're eating, why, where it's from, how's it's going to impact you long term, and not just in general. Like you said, each of us are so different. You have to know your body and what triggers it and what doesn't. Like we have to facilitate this awareness, and that's where I love, like you said, the breathwork comes in. Like this whole human approach to optimum wellness has to be a combined effort from several modalities, or it doesn't really work.
Right. And to touch base on that as well, just getting back to the uniqueness of everyone's microbiomes and diets, and lifestyles, is that, I don't profess to be the magic bullet for everything. I think it is this next level of interventionary care that provides a huge amount of support for an individual that's either going through some, difficult times health wise, or just wanting to optimize their digestive system and have their best foot forward. And yeah, and getting back to this notion of unique microbiomes, but then like what is happening at the systems level. What is interesting is that your gut lining, the epithelial tissue, the cells, they, that's the standard across the board, right? Everyone has the same highly similar epithelial cells, right? And so what do they need, from one's microbiome? So you have different workers in the factory, but what are the products that are being produced that actually feed the gut lining? And so some of those key metabolites are short chain fatty acids like propionate, butyrate, and acetate. And those are, even though they're created by, again, one's unique microbiome, all of the epithelial cells like need those metabolites, right? So it's how do we at the systems level take care of that baseline, and give nature what it needs to thrive, right? And that's I think the sort of like the great equalizer in the mix. And I think the future will be exciting because I think we're going to have more tailored and targeted therapeutic modalities that are similar to this, and I'm excited to be working on that. I've gotten some really great sort of headway in that realm, but we're not at the level yet. There are people that are doing test kits where you're sampling your microbiome, like I did. And, it was a starting point for me, but for them to be truly helpful for people in the long run, you have to test multiple times, almost, I mean, daily would be optimal. And right now those tests are pretty expensive, right, for the average person. I'm not saying don't do them, but we're getting to a point now where we'll have the ability to test at higher frequency to really give people super insightful data in terms of what's going on with their, how their diet is interacting, how their sleep is interacting with their microbiomes, and really how to truly, optimize and thrive from there, or again, deal with some really tough health issues. So
I love it. Yes, I mean, I said this over a year ago. I think you're on the front lines of some massive change, and not even to, make money or trailblaze, but just to help people. Like being in that space of life where you're just chronically sick is so miserable. And a lot of our healthcare situations don't know what to do or where to send people, and there's just no solution. So when I see stuff like this, I'm like, it is genuinely exciting. Our country needs love more than ever. And to have, an additional solution and a deeper conversation and stuff we haven't really dug into, particularly in America yet, I think it's really, really exciting news. So I hope people listen to this conversation. I know we got it like kind of a 10,000 foot view, but really check you out and follow what you're doing, because I do think you are opening doors that people really genuinely do need to walk through.
Well, thank you, Kristen. And I'm at the point now where, I've been pretty stealth in terms of social media engagement and the public eye, but right now we're doing pilot studies with a couple clinics to kind of do a clinically administered version of the kit. And I'm just excited to, meet people and have this therapy, find its people. And I encourage people, if they're curious, to reach out, because I still have the bandwidth to have one-on-one conversations every so often. But yeah, I'm excited about what the future holds, and to provide something in this current climate of the medical system here in the U.S., where it's only becoming more expensive. I feel like I've been also really lucky to provide something at a price point that is accessible, that's less than a doctor's visit out of pocket, that has the potential to bring massive change to people's lives. And that's really what also keeps me going, is that I know that people really do need that support, and are afraid to go seek care even right now. It's tough for a lot of people out there, and I'm here to help.
I love it. And advocate for yourself across the board. Like you said, it's not easy to take care of yourself, and it's not easy to be an entrepreneur in this space. Health and wellness is a multi-billion-dollar industry for a reason. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors and fast marketing money, and it's a lot of really good people doing good things, and it's hard to do it the right way. So I really do champion people like Jordan, because it's not an easy space to step into. The discoverability, the marketing, the manufacturing, the legal, everything you've got to work around. Like, it's a lot. And at the end of the day, I'm in different space, but similar space. It's always worth it. But man, it really tries your health, wellness, and entrepreneurial resilience, because it's not an easy space to exist in. So if you're listening to this, please go support our local humans, our startups, follow their journeys and what they're doing, not only medically, but professionally. Like, watch the entrepreneurial journey, because there's notes and intel and gold there that you can mine that can really help your situation. So Jordan, you kind of touched on it. I know you've got that study coming up, but is there anything else you want to touch on or share, or things we need to watch out for that you have coming up, or you want to talk about specifically?
Well, I think that consumers are getting more and more savvy to actually doing their own research, and and having the science there in front of them. And so, as I'm going forward with social media and anything that's sort of published, either self-published or with academic institutions, I want to be fully transparent, because again, I feel like I'm standing on the shoulder of giants. So, if you want to check out basically, cool science about microbes, testimonials, etc., the research, that's really going to be how I market, is, that very real approach, because it really did, change my life. I feel like I got my life back. And so, I would say stay tuned in that regard. In terms of sort of general promotions happening, I think that probably in the next 2 quarters, you're going to start to see clinics that are in the US and Canada that are providing Repose as a therapy that is sort of a adjunct or supplemental therapy to things that clinicians or doctors are already prescribing. Everything from cleanses to just kind of being a tool in the toolkit, right? And something that I think I'd be really that's really exciting to me too is to build that network. I feel like that is instrumental to getting a broader sort of understanding of what health is. I guess on the filmmaking side of things, there's something that I've been working on. So there's a project called Our Life Is Here. This is my juggle world. So it is a documentary film that is about an art and science expedition to the Marshall Islands. and we went to basically temporarily inhabit the uninhabitable, still to this day, Bikini Atoll and surrounding atolls. That is where the U.S. government did the bulk of its nuclear testing in Oceania, and not a lot of people know about it, which is kind of wild because a lot of megatonnage was dropped on the Marshall Islands, this small atoll nation between Hawaii and Guam, and so the project is basically a film, a traveling art exhibition, and a book that is going to sort of chronicle our experience there and what is made from that. And that was a very wild experience, I will say. It happened in August of 2023. We went back in 2024 to do additional filming, and it was remarkable to connect with indigenous Marshallese, that artists, and see this place that was thankfully like healing from all of this bombardment. It's as if or it is such that the Marshalls, or Bikini in particular, got a Hiroshima Nagasaki event basically, or the equivalent of it, every day for 15 years. So that's a pretty heavy statistic, but we really want to put it on the map because of its history and because it's an atoll nation that's 6 feet above sea level, and it's going to be underwater relatively soon. So I think shining a light on it will be is the whole reason that we did it.
Amen. Well, Jordan, the healer, you're covering all the bases. One final question, I'll let you run, but what is success to you?
I think that that's a great question. Success to me is being at peace with how you provide in the world, and having those provisions reflected back on you, and that sort of giving of service to others and to life on this planet is success to me. I really feel it. And so everything from successfully growing a plant to raising a child or caring for a pet to then extending care and expression in all sorts of different ways, and then having it reflected back to you, that's success to me.
I love it. And you bleed the brand. It's so authentic. I think that's going to be the main piece that shines for you, and then everything else will follow. But I love what's going on. I can't wait to follow the journey and see how this all progresses and what kind of trail you do blaze. Where do we find you? Hit us with websites, Instagram handles, anything you want the people to know.
Right. So so we are at www.repose.health. That's where you can buy the kit as it is right now. And Repose.health on Instagram, that as well but there hasn't been too much sort of traction there, but we're going to go towards TikTok. And we also have that handle on YouTube. So I would say primarily, reach out directly through the website or through Instagram, and then stay tuned for more. Again, cool science about microbes and really, next level, care in the form of stories about people's results. And I can also say, and maybe you'll edit this in earlier, but we've been over 90% successful so far in terms of improving people's lives to whatever degree. And that is, that's a pretty high number. So we're happy to talk about that in more detail, and and see what the future brings.
Boom. Go check out Jordan. I'd love to see, again, Questioning a Better Way in our health and wellness systems for physical and mental health. So many great things happening. I want to give a special thank you to our sponsors, Colorado Clownfish Swim School at coloradoclownfish.com. Go check them out for water safety and swim lessons for all ages. Declan James Watches, local and veteran owned. You can check them out everywhere. Jordan, thank you for joining us. This podcast will be wherever you get your podcast, and we will also be on YouTube. So please take care of yourselves and each other. And we will also be giving away a kit via our socials. And this is one of the kits right here. And then we'll have a special discount code if you want to order it. But like Jordan said, if you have questions, it's a very specific thing and modality. hit them up. He is accessible. He's a wealth of intel and can answer all your questions. So we'll put all of that in the notes. Once again, Jordan, thank you for your time and energy, and we will chat again soon.
Thank you for yours, Kristen. It was such a pleasure. And yeah, let's chat soon. And yeah, have a great, fall in the meantime.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.